And then you can put it right there.
Okay.
And then this is it.
That's it. Thank you so much. Wow, that is amazing. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you all so much. Wow, that is an amazing trophy. I've never actually looked at it or touched it, and I'm not going to put that next to there. That's going to go right there. My 4-year-old daughter loves everything that's sparkly or shiny, so she's going to love that. But we're going to put it on a high shelf, just in case. But it's truly an amazing gift. So thank you. Speaking of gifts, I'm going to give all of you a gift right now, and that is, in all of my remarks, I'm not once going to mention a certain orange-hued real estate developer slash presidential candidate. I won't mention him at all. I'm going to leave that to the other Mark. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But it's kind of a relief to be doing this. But this is such a huge honor, believe me. It's amazing, and it really gets me choked up, and I really feel it in my heart. And I also want to acknowledge and congratulate Ken Fisher. I'm not sure where he is, of Tom the Dancing Bug fame. There he is. So I am just amazed and in awe to be in his company, because if those of you who don't know his work, and hopefully all of you do, and if you don't, you will, follow his work. It's so freaking sharp and funny and amazing, and I truly look up to him, and he does great stuff. And in addition to congratulating Ken, I really want to thank the Herblock Foundation, Marcy and Sarah and the board members, and the foundation itself. Just, besides doing amazing stuff like this, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but they should be honored for all the incredible work they do. Marcy got into it a bit, but they do so much work for people who are truly in need and who truly deserve what they're giving them, what the foundation is giving them. They've been very generous with the Association of American Editorial Cartoonists and really have helped out that group in some difficult times. And that's something that Marcy didn't mention, and they're kind of unsung heroes to a lot of cartoonists out there. They do such amazing work to support free speech and to support cartoonists. And it's just such an honor to be honored by them. And speaking of supporting cartoonists and helping cartoonists, in the front row are my parents, who have done so much, Owen and Marianne Fiore, who they have just been so supportive of me all along, and my sister Karen, who's here representing the family. I'm the youngest of 6, so it's not just, it came from this weird upbringing of, lots of siblings and lots of support. And as you can imagine, if your son were to come up to you and say, I want to be a political cartoonist, that it's cute at a certain age, but when you get, say middle school age, it's neat, hey, you can be on the school paper, and then high school, oh, that's great, you're learning about politics and history and government, and you're on the school paper. And then around college, it starts to get a little like, what about law school, or other things, and to their credit, they did make those suggestions once in a while, but it's something that they were just so amazing with, and are, it's easy to be supportive here, but they were supportive all along when my work was terrible, and I just had this dream. So thank you very much. I'm going to try and get through this without getting too choked up. But the next person I would really like to thank, and really she's the one who deserves this, should be standing up here, and that's my wife Chelsea, who's down here in the front row as well. And as a lot of you probably know, it's hard to do anything with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old in the house or nearby or within a half-mile radius. And the fact that, if it weren't for her and for us being a true partnership, I couldn't, scramble eggs, let alone, create animated political cartoons. And beyond that, she knows more than anybody what goes into creating my work and creating these cartoons. And it's just something where it's a very monkish existence, outside of nights like this, which are very infrequent to never. It's a way of life and a strange calling or strange job that involves a lot of staring at a newspaper or a website or scribbling notes in my sketchbook / brain, and she knows what goes into this. She knows about the long nights and the fact that it's a strange, weird, difficult job, and oftentimes she puts up with the blank stares when we're supposed to be conversing, but in my head I'm really thinking of like a clever, entertaining way to talk about the horrors of lead poisoning in the water in Flint or something. So she knows how to nurture that and really is such an amazing partner, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. Which leads me to another person I really want to thank who can't be here today and tonight, but is really all around us and is all around this city, and that's Herb Block himself. He was kind enough about 25 years ago to, excuse me, you'd think I'd cry more about my wife than Herb Block. Sorry. He was kind enough to take time out of his schedule to meet with a aspiring cartoonist who was just out of college. And it's kind of strange thinking back on it. It's kind of like a storybook when I imagine it and picture what it was like. But, I didn't know what I was doing. I had under one arm, I had his book, Herb Block, A Cartoonist's Life. And under the other arm, I had a portfolio of terrible cartoons. And he was nice enough to meet with me for a time after lunch. I remember it was an afternoon. And I remember it like it was yesterday, going into the Washington Post building, going upstairs, getting to his office. And he, as most of you or many of you have probably heard, he was the nicest, most gracious, kind man and just welcomed me into his office. And so I sat down there and he was going through my cartoons and I was looking around and I look over and I see on his couch, he's got a pillow on the edge of the couch. And in that pillow, it's as if someone took a bowling ball and then removed the bowling ball. And in my head, I thought, oh my gosh, he was napping on that couch right there before I came in. And it was like a cartoonist's Shroud of Turin or something, looking at that and imagining that is where he just was. And he was probably thinking of ideas while he was falling asleep or waking up. So it was just an amazing experience. And, so naturally as a college cartoonist or right out of college cartoonist and wanting to do this and, reaching for that brass ring, wanting a staff job, wanting to become a political cartoonist, just like you, Mr. Block, I asked him, I said, well, what should I do? How do I do this? Should I move to Washington, D.C.? I mean, and also a little aside, I had just had my first cartoon published in the Washington Post weekly roundup of political cartoons, so I was feeling pretty big. Granted, they paid $10, but that's different. I didn't know that at the time. And so I asked him, what should I do, Mr. Block? How do I do this? How do I become a political cartoonist? And he looked at me and looked at my cartoons, and he just said, kid, I've been here since Truman. I haven't the foggiest idea of what you should do. and it really, it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. But it was some of the best advice thinking back on it. And he didn't know. It's up to you. It's up to the cartoonist, whether it's a cartoon or whatever you're trying to do. it's up to you, because it's always changing. Had I gone to law school or become a banker, that isn't always the most stable route, as we've seen in 2008 and beyond. But anyway, I was looking for the coveted staff job. I wanted to, and there really weren't that many, and there especially not that many now. But I was reaching for that brass ring, and I freelanced and did a lot of working and cartooning and again, trying to get into different outlets. I finally got the job at the Mercury News as a staff cartoonist, which, looking back, it was like the blink of an eye, and that was gone. But it just wasn't what I had hoped and expected. It wasn't this magical place where I was instantly a Herblock or a Paul Conrad, and it was a difficult time to be there. Partly because one day, and the journalists in the room will know that, and actually probably most humans in the room would know this is a no-no. One day the publisher came in and talked to the editorial board. It was a brand new publisher after some fireworks with the old one. The publisher came in and said, can you guys go easier on George W. Bush? And I think the editorial writers were grumbled, and the editorial page editor grumbled, and they tried to work it so they could do what they wanted. But for a cartoonist, that's catnip. You go for that. So I, needless to say, did not go easier on George W. Bush. And I still, to this day, don't know whether I was fired or quit. But I'm no longer at the Mercury News. And so after that, I dove full bore into the animation, which I had started to do before getting that job. But so I had dabbled in it, but then I really went full bore into creating animation, and it was early 2000s, mid 2000s, and it was going really well, and I loved it, and I loved doing it. And on the way over here, well, not in the car, but before coming here, I actually looked at my copy of Herblock's book that he signed when I was there many years ago. And the weirdest thing, I was kind of flipping through it to see if there was anything that sparked something that I might be able to talk about as well. And lo and behold, I think the book came out in '93, and I met him right around then, soon after the book came out. And in that book, he says, this is what Herblock's saying in his book, A Cartoonist's Life. He said, "Sometimes in the early 1970s, I first heard about the use of computers to animate cartoons." He goes on to talk about doing some tests animation with Paul Conrad and Pat Oliphant that they ran on TV. And then he goes on about what he thinks about animated political cartoons. "But even though the animated political cartoon sounds good in theory, it has not yet become the wave of the future. When you see a good political cartoon in print, it goes bang. I don't know if animation improves on that. And however many millions see it on TV, it cannot receive the accolade and extended mortality of a place on a refrigerator door. But I'm keeping an open mind." So thank you, Herb, for keeping an open mind. I really appreciate that, and I hope I'm living up to that. It's so funny. Like it's such a strange profession, and I know there's other political cartoonists in the audience that hopefully a lot of you will meet afterwards. Some amazingly talented people who are here. It's such a strange profession because largely political cartoonists tend to be more liberal and progressive leaning, but it's such a freaking libertarian, free market world of cartooning out there on the economic side. So it's a very strange place to be. Ayn Rand would love the economics of being a political cartoonist, let's say, or of hiring one, let's say. She might not like this event particularly. So it's easy to get caught up in the business side and in the career side of being a political cartoonist and what that means. But really, whether it's animation or print political cartoons or multi-panel or whatever it is, really I think why you get into this is, as cheesy as it sounds, because you want to make a difference. You want to say something and you want to have an impact. And so as you look at, oh, that cartoon moves, or oh, that guy just talked. It's like, that's kind of fun and cool, and I like doing that. But that's not what it's about. It's about saying something, and that's what brought me to doing this kind of work. So from that, the natural question would be, if I were to be talking to myself years ago, gee, Mr. Fiore, what should I do? How do I become a political cartoonist or a political animator? I guess I would say, look, I've been here since Reagan. I don't have the foggiest idea what you should do. Which for me really translates to do what you love, keep doing what you love, and just find a way to make it work. Whether that's being on staff, whether that's getting syndicated, whether that's crowdfunding. Do what you love and figure out the business after that, and it will hopefully work. Which is probably why I'm also not teaching at a business school. So clearly it's not like a 50-year job like in the Herblock days where you retire on the top of the world and you get a gold watch on your way out the door, whether it's Herblock or Paul Conrad or whoever. It's more about the power of cartooning and the power of creating political cartoons and what you can do with that. And that part has shifted a little bit. You're not necessarily trying to create a cartoon that makes Obama or Nixon or Trump or, oh, shoot, sorry. I said it, I promised. Oh, I didn't mean to. Sorry. Okay. Let's say Ted Cruz. You're not trying to make them quake in their boots and, be nicer. I think what a cartoonist is trying to do, and, not that I'm going to speak for all political cartoonists, but what I try to do is instead influence the conversation. My audience, it's the people. I'm talking to the people and trying to shape the conversation and trying to put my thumbprint on the discourse. And so really just to reiterate, thank you so much to the foundation, and thank you so much to everybody for coming out tonight. You guys know it's a Tuesday night, right? Like, you're all here. But thank you so much for coming, and most of all, thank you to Herblock, and thank you for keeping up the good work. Thank you.